Okay then, now let us talk about volume support for a bearish 50% bar. Bearish 50% bar. And we discussed the characteristics of the 50% bar in earlier sections. And now let's talk about what we want to see as far as volume that's going to support and confirm that 50% bar. Now we're going to talk about here the bearish 50% bar, which will signal the end of an up move and a pending reversal to the downside. Now, bearish 50% bars only occur at tops, at market tops. Okay, and I have 5 of them marked on the chart here. I've got 1 through 4, and then I've got A here. But now we know that the bearish 50% bar is comprised of a bar that makes a higher high than the previous bar. But now when we take the range of the bar, it closes, the closing price of the bar is 50% or less below the high of the bar. So we take the range of the total range of the bar, divide it in half, and we want to see, on a strong bar, we want to see the market close above the halfway point of the bar. And we can see in our examples that we go up, and when we close below the 50% mark of the high of the bar. And now what do we want to see by way of volume to support our bearish 50% bar? I mean, what kind of volume do we want to see that will confirm that that 50% bar is weak and that we can expect it to follow through with a reversal, or at least attempt to reverse direction in the market? We want to see higher volume on the bearish 50% bar. We want to see it close below that 50% mark on higher volume or on operator participation. Again, volume support or volume confirmation. We want to see higher volume, or we want to see operator participation. Now we want to see that higher volume because that higher volume tells us that gravity is in control rather than buoyancy. See, because if we go up here and gravity comes into play and stops the move, if we fall down 50% below the top of the bar here, who's in control? Gravity is in control. So if gravity is in control, that tells us that the momentum or the strength at that moment is to the downside. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean price is going to make a drastic drop or fall from A to B, but what it does mean is that price is likely to reverse and go back down and test bottom support. And we also need to understand that if operators are involved in that 50% bar, that the reason why they are involved or they show up on that bar because it designates that they are selling. They are selling into the support or resistance. For instance, take this bar number 1, and this will be our next resistance level here. The range of this bar, this is the high bar. Remember, we take the range, the low and high range of the high bar on the way up, and that's going to be our resistance zone. When we look at 1 here, we see that price moved up, tested the resistance zone, and understand that operators, they buy and sell at support and resistance. And this is why you should. Not just because they do, but they do for a reason. But anyway, okay, on this bar here, it came up. And now let's see who was in on this bar. Okay, the public was in on this bar. So the public brought it up to here, and operators started selling here, and we closed down below 50%. Now, since operators did not show up on this bar, we know that this bar was predominantly the public rather than the operators. And what happens to the public? Once again, we get faded. And see, this is, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but this is how we put the concepts together. I mean, we see a 50% bar here, a bearish 50% bar. Then we see that this bar was controlled by the public. Okay, and the public gets faded by the operators. So now that we know that, that in itself is a confirmation that this bar here signals a reversal or an attempt at a reversal. But now let's see what happens on the next bar. Who's involved on this next down bar? Yes, it's the operators. The operators are involved on this bar. So as you can see, they're going to at least take it down enough to stop out the public here. So now that we see that the operators are involved on this bar, the next bar after the bearish 50% bar, now we need to determine if the operators are they in here because they're stopping out the public? Are they in here to confirm the downward reversal? Well, let's start putting our rules together here, and we see that this is a low volume bar. It made a lower low than the previous bar and closed lower than the previous bar. Yet it had lower volume. Since it has lower volume, why did it go down? Why did it close down? If it's going to close down, the force of gravity should be greater. So what's to hold it down? So this is a hint that the operators, they are accumulating long positions here, because this is a strong bar. This bar signifies strength by virtue of our volume and pattern rules. And now what happens on the next bar? This next bar is also on strength, because it didn't even close lower than the prior bar, and it didn't even make a lower low than the prior bar. So now we have two bars in a row that signal strength. This next bar here, same thing, and this is also an operator bar. This bar signifies no interest when we look to our MFI, no participation. So if price is going down here, there's no one coming in on the next bar to push it down. So our next try is going to necessarily want to be up. So now we have another strong bar, because we have two down bars on lower volume. Now we have an up close, but it's really not telling us a whole lot, but it tells us enough. It tells us that this market is still strong. Now we have three strong bars in a row. And what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that most likely the odds are high, the probability is that this next bar will not close below the low of this operator bar, because they're buyers